A special thanks to Bluefishcake for the wonderful original story in the sandbox to play in. A special thanks to all my editors, Lord Henry, RandomTinkerer, and Swimming Good 8507. And a big thanks to the authors and their stories that inspired me to tell my own in this universe. To Random Tinkerer, of City Slickers and Hayseeds, Punnynfunny, of Denied Operations, CompassWithHat, Top Lasgun, CarQ 131, The Cook, and Rhion 618 of Just One Drop. Hy'shq'e Ay Si'am. Thank you, noble friends. Cryptid Chronicle. Prologue. She sat down at the table as the lights in the hall dimmed. The bustle of tableware and conversations came to a close as the center of the room lit up and the hologram sprang to life. Beside her, her husband shushed their two youngest, while her brushed some of Cousin Vila's fur off of his dress uniform. Vila was over near the head table where their mothers sat. The hall was filled to capacity with the whole family on all sides, and many of the family's closest friends and allies had come to pay their respects. The room stilled to silence as the hologram started to play. There, in his big plush chair, sat Dad, wearing his service uniform. His long dark hair worn in a braid and laying over his shoulder. There was a shuddering intake of breath from her husband beside her. Today had been a rough day emotionally, especially for those who had served with him. She reached over and took his hand as he raised his napkin to dab at his eyes. "Is it rolling yet?" Dad spoke in a sarcastic tone, looking somewhere over the camera. "You know it is, you pillock," her birth mother's voice broke in from off-screen and had an annoyed tone. "Try not to ruin another take. You know this is your family tradition. And if you won't take this seriously..." "All right, fine," Dad said with a slight chuckle before sitting up and leaning forward. "No more playing around." The hologram took a steadying breath and closed his eyes for a moment. Opening his eyes, he began to chant in the ancient human language that everyone in the family had to learn. "Honored and noble family, be welcome," he began in the old protocol of his ancestors. She knew it and loved the way it sounded, but it was always a struggle to speak. Her tusks always seemed to keep getting in the way. He paused, having completed the traditional greetings, and a smile played over his face before switching back to Vatiker. "If you're watching this, it means I didn't make it back home. Your grandpa made me one of these, so I'm just continuing the tradition. I am Constantine Shaloxet. I am of the people who survived the flood, and this is how I came to be here, and who you are." Chapter 1. The Starry Rain. "Grandson, get up, we're burning daylight." Constantine shot up like he'd been shocked and dropped awkwardly out of the bed to the floor. "Grandpa!" he shouted excitedly before standing up to look where the old man stood, filling the doorway of the bedroom. There was a moment where the excitement at seeing his Grandpa Wiley overwhelmed his capacity to think or act as he stood in front of the bunk bed he shared with his little brother. His grandpa was tall and broad-shouldered, like Dad, and his hair was tied in two long gray braids, hidden under the wide-brimmed black Stetson, with gold braids and a crossed saber emblem on the front. "Well, don't just stand there, little fish. Give your grandpa a hug before I kick your teeth in," he said, kneeling down and spreading his arms almost as wide as his grin. "You're here!" Constantine shouted, launching himself like a missile at his grandpa and bowling the man over into the hall behind him. Ugh, you're not so little anymore, Grandpa said, standing up clunkily as Constantine clung to him like a spider monkey. Have you been practicing your Salish? Every day, Constantine replied, a frown coming across his face as he dropped to stand on his own, looking down. But it's not that good yet. Well, we'll just have to change that this summer now, won't we? Grandpa said, adopting a serious tone and switching to English. Get dressed, grandson. Breakfast is getting cold and we don't want to get caught in traffic. He turned, leaving Constantine to scramble to his room and change out of his PJs. Scrambling out of the room, he ran to where a small mountain of pancakes sat in the center of the kitchen table. He hopped into a chair before looking over at Mom's icon corner. Saying a quick blessing, he dug into the chocolate chip pancakes quickly, and he began wolfing them down as Grandpa sat with a cup of coffee. Grandpa? Where's Mom and Andy? He questioned between feverish mouthfuls of pancake. They left very early this morning. Your mama is off to Hawaii to get your papa, and your brother's off on his first adventure. You mean... He's 5, so Grandma is taking him to get his Indian name and introduce him to the family elders. Grandpa chuckled behind his mug. Uncle Teddy is giving Andy his name. It's his turn to sit with the elders and learn the old ways. You still remember yours, right? Grandpa leaned in, his gaze hardening slightly. I am Hy'shq'e Ay Si'am of the Orca clan, a Stomach warrior of the black paint, Constantine replied proudly. And your lineage? Do you remember your family? Grandpa questioned, leaning even further in. I know up to great-grandpa on your side, but I can't remember Grandma's family. And your mother's side? But she's not Salish. Mama's an Aleut, Constantine protested. They're our family to the north, grandson, and she is half your lineage also, Grandpa replied seriously before leaning back. We'll work on your family history and your language when we drive up. Since it's just the two of us on a road trip back to the home islands, we'll only speak in Salish. And when we see Grandma again, you will stand in the smokehouse and recite your lineage back 7 generations, like a true Siam. Siam? What does that mean again? It means high-class person, or noble. Don't worry, grandson. By the time you go back to that white school of yours, you'll be so comfortable with Salish you could be a speaker for the people, he said, smiling. A Siam of the Salish knows his language, his family, and his heritage. Our ancestors signed the treaty as chiefs, who carry one of their names, and will add your song to its heritage. Constantine nodded proudly before overstuffing his mouth with pancake, making Grandpa laugh. Okay, your mama packed your bags last night before she went to the airport with your brother. So, orders for the day, young Cav Scout, Grandpa started speaking before Constantine could swallow. Marine! I want to be a Marine captain like Dad, Constantine interrupted exuberantly. Grandpa gave him a stink eye. Grandson, he chided playfully, you know, if you ain't Cav, you ain't spit, Constantine finished, rolling his eyes. Besides, Marines don't get to go to Disneyland today. Constantine's eyes became as wide as dinner plates as his mouth fell open. So finish up and we'll hit the road. We'll get you your own hat and christen it with grog and go tear it up on Main Street. You're 21 already, right? Grandpa asked, standing up from his chair, tone playful. I'm almost 8, Grandpa, Constantine replied, laughing as he cleared his plate. 8? Holy smokes, that can't be right. If that's true, I'll have to cancel the dancing girls, return the cigars. And he started listing all the other things he'd have to cancel as Constantine helped clean up. Grandpa was still ribbing him as he made his bed and got into the car. The drive off the base was slow but uneventful. By the time they were out of San Diego, it had been long enough that singing the family canoe songs was getting boring. So Grandpa dug out the tablet and queued up their favorite John Wayne movies to keep him quiet. Grandpa, I can see the stars, Constantine said, looking up through the sunroof of the family car. What are you talking about, grandson? It's the middle of the day, Grandpa said as traffic on the highway crawled forward at a snail's pace. Yeah, but I can see the stars up there. Um, Grandpa? It is it getting brighter? Andy felt nervous as he walked off the airplane and into the terminal. It had been the first time he'd flown alone, but Mama had told him that Grandma would be there to meet him when he got off the plane. Sure enough, as soon as he had stepped into the terminal, there was Grandma, happily waving and rushing over to wrap him in a giant bear hug. Oh, sweet grandson, so good to see you, she crowed as he did his best to wrap his own arms around her ample frame. I take it this one belongs to you, then, the flight attendant that had walked with him asked as she checked Grandma's ID to verify the person of contact for pickup. Oh, yes, this one's finally come back home, Grandma said, cheerfully as the paperwork was quickly completed. He did very well. He slept most of the flight, she said, before turning to wave goodbye to him. Have a pleasant stay in Seattle. So, grandson, what say you to a quick trip to Pike's Place before we go catch the ferry to the islands? They have the best grilled cheese in the whole world out there. But you can't have grilled cheese for breakfast, Andy said, confused as Grandma took his hand and led him down towards baggage claim. You're on adventure now, grandson. That means we have dinner for breakfast, and dessert for dinner, and breakfast in between. And I get a new name? Andy asked, spellbound by what he was hearing. You get a new name, and you get to learn our family's secret language, Grandma said conspiratorially. It's not a secret. KT talks it all the time with Papa, Andy protested. Oh, does he now? Good. Now you'll get to start speaking it too, Grandma said matter-of-factly. Oh boy. Now I don't have to pretend KT wasn't teaching me anymore. Grandma's laugh was rich and warm, and they got his bags and got into the car, driving out on the cloudy day. Grandma listened as Andy talked with all the plane ride and recited everything he knew about her son's aircraft carrier. She smiled at how proud her grandson was of having been allowed to walk the flight deck, and how he'd been able to name all the different airplanes on it. True to her word, they'd gone straight to Pike's Place Market and gotten grilled cheese sandwiches at the cheese shop there. And they'd gone to the Cilician Art Store and said hello to the owners, who were extended family. Andy's face had lit up when Cousin George had given him a little carved wooden story pole where a crow sat atop a wolf and was pulling on its tail. He paid rapt attention to Grandma as she told him the story of why Crow was always trying to play tricks on Wolf. He'd been ever so polite and thanked his distant cousin as he held on to his present, as though it were the most valuable treasure in the world. Will you be able to make it to the naming ceremony? Grandma asked. Yes, Auntie. And so will the Washingtons and the Jeffersons. Well, that'll make it special. We might have all the clans this year for the Stamish festival, Grandma said as she pressed the money for the present quickly into his hands. Auntie, this is a gift, and so is this, nephew. We just got told by the state that they're shutting down the fishing season again. Means it's going to be a hard year for everyone. Are the test runs that bad? He asked, reluctantly pocketing the money. They only caught 6 sockeyes in the Nooksack, and there weren't any at all in Anacortes, she said gravely. Going to be a tough winter. Thanks for the heads up, Auntie. I'll try and push through a fisherman aid package in the council, but I'll talk to Jimmy Adams about that in August and see if the Kings don't show up either, Grandma said before giving his hand a squeeze. Give my love to the rest of the Swaddle family, she said as she waved goodbye and collected Andy, who'd been staring at a set of carved orca masks. As they walked to the car, the little boy piped up. Grandma, why is KT an orca and I'm going to be a bear? Because he's the older brother, Grandma said simply. And he's the oldest cousin in your generation. His heritage is from Grandpa Wiley. Does that mean I'm not going to be his brother anymore? Andy asked in a worried tone. No, grandson, Grandma said with a light laugh. Just means that you'll carry a different part of the family's heritage, namely mine. Oh, so KT will still be my brother, even though I'm a bear and he's an orca? Andy questioned slowly. Mm-hmm, Grandma said as they reached the car. The drive out of the city towards Anacortes Ferry passed in silence as Andy fell asleep in his car seat. He awoke to the sound of screeching tires and a piercing siren blaring over the radio. This is a national emergency. Important instructions to follow.